Welcome to the QE2 Centre. Please take a moment to listen to the following safety message. There is no planned fire drill taking place today. In the event of an alarm, please leave the building immediately via your nearest fire exit. Further instructions will be given at the time. Please make your event organiser aware if you require assistance. Once outside, you should disperse away from the building and await further information from your event organiser. Thank you for listening and enjoy your event.
12 months ago, when we last came together for our global annual conference, the UK was preparing to go to the polls. We launched our Future of the Economy Manifesto, a blueprint for growth. The new government backed many of our asks, but the year has brought many challenges for business. Increased cost pressures at home and a difficult global trading environment. Many of you were left asking, where's the growth? Today, we have key policymakers helping us answer that question. But that question is also an opportunity to celebrate success and look forward to new, exciting opportunities. Over the last year, I've travelled the country and seen British business at its best. This is some of what you've told me.
We see Openreach as being at the heart of growth for the UK economy. We're rolling out digital infrastructure right across the length and breadth of the country, and the research is now showing that that'll add about £70 billion back into the economy.
In Brussels at the British Chamber of Commerce, the EU and Belgium, we're really focused on growth in the UK-EU relationship, focusing on security and defence cooperation, green industry cooperation, data, and economic security.
Growth is our priority for the year, and we have over 90% of our people working outside of London. So we are invested across the whole of the UK, and that's billions of pounds, which we're especially investing at the moment in issues such as healthcare, in housing, and in higher education.
In the east of England alone, we're looking at about £220 billion worth of infrastructure investment over the next few years. This won't happen if we don't have the right skills in place. Growth and skills goes hand in hand.
Sizewell C is really important for the growth of the UK. We bring people into the workforce, we train people, we upskill people, and we give out lots and lots of contracts to UK businesses because we have really high UK content.
Our role is to work with Sizewell to get local businesses into the supply chain to the tune of around £2 billion and regional firms to the tune of around £4.4 billion.
There's so much growth potential in Bedfordshire. We have Universal Studios coming to the county, we have expansion at London Luton Airport, new football stadium for Luton Town Football Club, and Luton Hoo Hotel investing a huge amount of money to attract the Ryder Cup. So where's the growth for Bedfordshire? In a lot of places.
We are investing in our people, we're seeing growth in terms of our capabilities and in our workforce, and not only to continue to support the Ministry of Defence, but also to be able to go and take that expertise and explore new engineering opportunities into a new market.
Organisations like this will have supply chains that are crucial to the future growth of UK PLC. So, great to see businesses like Lockheed here in Bedfordshire who have large local workforces, national supply chains and export all over the world.
Northern Ireland Chamber is driving growth within business right across Northern Ireland, which of course is part of the UK, very focused on that dual market access that we have into the EU and into GB. So we're helping our business access skills, we're helping our businesses reduce barriers to growth as well, like more investment in infrastructure and also innovation.
At NatWest, we're driving growth through a number of ways, from our startup accelerator hubs right the way through to large international companies where we help them to develop trade.
A huge unlock for UK growth is to become even more of a trading nation. That's true across every single sector, not only making sure we have global ambitions but build on existing partnerships. It's in the British Chamber's blood.
The Chamber Network is making a difference for business, locally, nationally and internationally, every day. Supporting business, connecting business, speaking up for business, helping you grow. So, where's the growth? Our growth story starts and ends with great British business, now and in the future.
Good morning, everyone, and a very warm welcome. To guide us through the day, please welcome to the stage our host, the award-winning journalist, broadcaster, author and public speaker, Clive Myrie.
Welcome to the BCC Global Annual Conference. And as we try to answer a very, very important question today, it's hot and sticky outside, and I'm sure with some of our speakers, it could be warm and sticky in here too. We're going to be trying to answer a very key question. Where's the growth? How do we find it? How do we produce it? How do we make it long-term and enduring? Now, you're going to find the agenda on the app with information on the lineup of speakers we have today and the breakout sessions, which are really important. There's a QR code on the back of your name badges to access that. And to avoid disappointment, remember to try to book a seat for any of the breakout sessions you fancy in advance. The Wi-Fi login details are also there too. Now, in a moment, we're going to hear from our first guest of the day. But now, please welcome the BCC's Director General, who's been at the helm for just over 4 years now, after a career in business and government, and has just been awarded a CBE in the King's Birthday Honours List for services to business. So please welcome Siobhan Havland.
Good morning, everyone. It is fantastic to see you all here today. Thank you for being with us. A huge amount of effort goes into getting us to this point, and I'd like to thank our headline partners, Heathrow and NatWest, and our corporate partner, Intuit, for all their support in making it happen. It is the second visit to the British Chambers of Commerce Global Annual Conference for our first speaker today. He last joined us 2 years ago, then Leader of the Opposition, and revealed his plans for reforming the UK's planning system to unlock economic growth. So I'm really excited to see what he's going to announce today. It is my great pleasure to welcome to the stage the Prime Minister.
Thank you, Siobhan, and not just for that introduction, but for all of your leadership over 4 years now. It's really good to have been working with you. I know how valuable this chamber network is to UK PLC, representing us around the world, building your own communities brick by brick, creating the jobs, the wealth, the tax receipts that means that we have the opportunity to change our country for the better. And I want to begin by thanking you for all of that. Because, look, I fully acknowledge, and I do acknowledge here, that this year, as we've had to fix the foundations of our country, deal with the unprecedented mess that we inherited, we've asked a lot of you. I understand that, and I want to acknowledge that. It has made a huge difference. Because of it, the money's gone into the NHS and waiting lists are coming down. We've put investment into the skills of our young people, the new homes, new roads, new infrastructure that we're building. They are all vital for the long-term growth of our country. But none of that would have been possible without your contribution. And I say thank you. It's what I mean by partnership. It's what I spoke about, Siobhan, 2 years ago when I last came here. Because for me, this is not just dialogue. It's a partnership of us all, the British nation, facing down the challenges of a volatile world together. And it's a more volatile world than I think many of us have seen in many years. And frankly, the more I see the way this world is changing, the more I see the future that we must build. And the more convinced I am about the need for this unity, a sense between us of shared national purpose. And that is, I believe, how we can rise again together. And mark my words, we will. Take the spending review. This is a clear shift in the nature of this government, beyond fixing those inherited problems and now investing in the future of our country. We've, as it were, wiped the slate clean, we've stabilised the economy, and now we can go on to the next phase of government, building on that foundation, building a fairer Britain, change and renewal that you can feel. And that means, of course, that we have to back you to the hilt, because your members are the engines of growth in every community across the United Kingdom. And that's the responsibility of partnership. And we want to be the best state partner for enterprise anywhere in the world, and to give you the best possible conditions to succeed. And I am optimistic about this. Now, don't get me wrong, I know that the trading environment is not easy. The challenges that you face are front and centre of my mind. When I'm sitting across the negotiating table with the EU, with the US, with India, whoever it is, trust me, I'm fighting for you. And politics is about who do you have in your mind's eye. But together, I do believe we've got to stop doing that British understatement thing. And we do it all the time, including me. Because believe you me, this is a great moment to get on the phone to the world and say, take another look at Britain. I was speaking to Jensen Huang the other week, CEO of NVIDIA, the largest semiconductor company in the world. And he was saying Britain is in a Goldilocks situation on AI, ready to take off, a really good place to be investing. You can see it with Amazon this week, a massive £40 billion investment in our country, one of the biggest investments that's ever gone in. Thousands of jobs created in Hull, in the East Midlands, in Northampton, which means that since July of last year, we've attracted over £120 billion into our economy. Now, you will all get this and understand this straight away, but these are companies that can invest anywhere in the world. They don't have to invest here, but they're choosing Britain. And that's a sign of confidence in our plan for change, that we are a stable partner, that we are open for business, that we are putting our money in your customers' pockets. And real wages are up more in the first 10 months of this government than they were in the first 10 years of the Tory era. 380,000 jobs have been created, more demand for your goods and your services, more opportunities to boost your bottom line. Because, and this is crucial, as we fix those foundations, we also made choices that will make us a fairer, more prosperous country. For example, as Siobhan mentioned, 2 years ago at this conference, I set out that bold vision in relation to planning reform, then leader of the opposition, to remove the blockages in the system, to build the labs, the warehouses, the grid connections that all of your businesses need. And 2 years later, standing here, that vision is written into legislation, and we're pushing it through Parliament. And every day new spades are hitting the ground. Growth revised up because of it. A promise made to you 2 years ago, a promise delivered. It's the same with our industrial strategy announced earlier this week. For far too long, Britain ignored this. We didn't back businesses. We didn't invest in projects and technology that are critical to our future. Didn't have a plan that gave your businesses the certainty that you need. Well, now we have that plan, and it's been drawn up in partnership, and it is, quotes, a significant step forward for our economy. That's not my words, they're Siobhan's words. And as she says, and this to me was the most important part in Siobhan's response on your behalf, that what you shared with us, what you fed in, has been, quotes, heard and reflected in our strategy. Your fingerprints are on that strategy. It came out of the discussions that I and others have had with many people in this room. It wasn't plucked out of the sky by a government. It was reflecting back what you had told us needed to change. And that is what I mean by partnership, where both partners do different things, bring different things to the table. It's a statement shared by other leaders. What Siobhan said wasn't just what Siobhan thought, what you thought. It was the sentiments of the CBI, of Enterprise Nation, the Federation of Small Businesses, Make UK, Small Business Britain, and the Startup Coalition, backing British business with significant investment in R&D, new technical colleges across the country, electricity bills slashed for more than 7,000 businesses. That'll make a massive difference. So many people in this room and elsewhere have said to me, it's the energy costs here. They're not competitive across Europe. We have to find a way to bring them down. That's what we've been able to do to boost our competitiveness. A promise that we made and a promise that we have delivered. And across the country, it's the same story. Stripping out regulation that blocks investment. Pushing forward with radical devolution agenda. Investing in skills and making sure that that's devolved, unlocking pension wealth to back British business, building new infrastructure, the length and breadth of our country, carbon capture projects in Merseyside, in Scotland, and along the east coast, nuclear in Nottinghamshire, and of course at Sizewell, rail investment in Wales, a new runway at Heathrow, new metro schemes everywhere, from the North East to the West Midlands, Manchester, Sheffield and Leeds. And now today, another step, a new trade strategy that I am proud to launch at this conference, because there's no better place for that than with Britain's leading exporters, with you. It builds, as you would have expected, and of course, on the deals we've already struck with India, the United States and the European Union. The hat-trick, as I call it. And I've played defensive midfield all my life as a footballer. The last time I got a hat-trick, I think, was when the kids were about 7 and I could just about get the ball past them. So I'm going to take this particular hat-trick. But look, seriously, you don't need me to stand here and tell you how important these trade deals are. The EU SBS agreement on its own is a huge boost for food exporters and importers, driving down the cost base for retailers, reducing friction for our exports, a huge boost for the food industry. And I think a sign that partnership is not just empty rhetoric, that we're prepared to fight for your interests, prepared to make a political case for the growth and jobs that you can deliver. Small businesses, of course, as well as larger firms. And that EU-UK reset is so important on so many strands. There were 10 strands to that agreement. The SBS was one of them. There was the Defence and Security Partnership. Yesterday, I was at the NATO summit. We were increasing spending on defence across all of our allies. And because of the relationships that we've built, as people increase their spending, they're coming to us for discussion. They were doing it in the margins of the meetings yesterday because they know that we have the ability to help them with the defence capability that they need to build. And it's therefore the EU-UK reset is about the strands that are in the deal, but it's also about the relationships that we're building that absolutely help and enable trade, and you will understand that. But that mindset is true of all the other deals. The US deal, hugely important for car manufacturing, particularly for companies like Jaguar Land Rover. And before we made the deal and after we made the deal, I went to Solihull, to JLR, a number of times to speak to the workers there and to look into their eyes. And I know how much it meant to them. Before the deal, they knew that trading at 27.5% tariffs into the North American market was really difficult. And they absolutely appreciated what that meant for them, for their jobs, for their families and their communities. And that's why when we got the deal done, when we got it over the line eventually last week, that signature, the CEO of JLR, Adrian Mardell, called me and made it crystal clear that thousands of jobs across the West Midlands had been saved. And then think of the supply chains that go with that, in logistics, in engineering, in freight. Think of the demand in the local economy, the cafes, the retailers, the pubs. And that is all true of that deal. It's why we had to be so focused to achieve that deal. The only country in the world to have got a trade deal with the US, something which we've been talking about for a very, very long time, is vital for the sectors that it protects. And that approach is true also of the India deal, again talked about for a very long time, but an unprecedented opportunity for UK PLC to access the world's fastest growing economy. And I've spoken to some of our whiskey and gin distillers about the India deal, and they've told me that their concern now is whether they can produce enough to meet the demand. What a great problem to have. What a great problem. It's a huge win for them. And under the India deal, tariffs for our car manufacturers slashed from over 100% to just 10%, the best terms of any country in the world. A deal which people said could never be done. That actually is true of all three deals. They said it wouldn't be possible to get a US deal. It wouldn't be possible to get an EU deal. If you had a US deal, you had to choose between the two, and it certainly wouldn't be possible to get an India deal. And we've been able to get them, and that is brilliant for Britain and brilliant for you. And we'll go forward from here. And it's not just the terms of the trade deal. It's the signal that it sends about us, a transformation of our global brand. Because for years, the message the previous government was sending to the world was one of chaos, instability, the lack of courage to strike deals. Because when push comes to shove, in my view, they put politics before country. And together, we've now completely turned the page on that. With these 3 deals, we've rewritten our brand, restored our identity that even in this volatile world, Britain is proudly, unashamedly, defiantly even, open for business. And today's trade strategy builds on that. We're going to keep pushing, keep making deals, keep opening up new markets for you. We're expanding the capacity of our export credit agency by £20 billion. And I know how important that is for everyone in this room. We're launching a new Ricardo Fund. We will reduce trade friction for professionals in engineering, architecture, accountancy, and so much more, opening up £5 billion worth of export opportunities. Because trade isn't just about goods. We're a services superpower. So we'll back our exporting services as well, show more flexibility in that approach. And what we want to do is push not just for traditional trade agreements, but also for smaller deals that we can make quicker at pace, whether that's a digital trade agreement with Brazil, Thailand, or Kenya, clean energy cooperation with the Philippines and Mexico, professional qualification recognition all around the world. But perhaps, most importantly, in this uncertain and challenging world, we will also give ourselves new powers on trade defence. Make sure that if your businesses are threatened by practices like dumping, that we have the right powers to defend you. And I'm determined that Britain becomes a global champion for free trade. I'm determined that we're the beacon for those values. And frankly, I think our actions already speak louder than any words. But in a world where things can change quickly, as you've seen in the recent days, we've seen in sectors like steel that protection measures do need to be put in place, then we have to be ready to back British business. And that is what we've done on trade. That is what we will do in the future, right across our economy. Businesses creating wealth in every community, and a Labour government investing in the skills, the infrastructure, the future that we need to build. A partnership in the national interest, driving us forward, delivering change and renewal, putting more money in the pockets of working people. That is the change that we can deliver together, a Britain that is back in business. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Prime Minister.
Hi. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Hi.
Grab a seat.
Thank you very much.
We're going to go from Goldilocks to Iran.
Very good.
They've now partially reopened their airspace. The ceasefire with Israel, it does seem to be holding, thankfully. But how concerned are you about the economic impact if there is a renewal of violence and prolonged instability across the region? How worried should UK businesses be?
I think we should all be concerned. What we saw in the last week or two was the immediate impact on oil prices of the conflict in Iran. Happily, there's a ceasefire. And amongst the things we've been working at pace on with our partners is making sure that ceasefire remains in place, that we de-escalate and have stability across the region, but it's fragile, as everybody in this room will appreciate. And I think I'm right in saying that the impact of international affairs on us domestically has never been so direct as it is at the moment. So you saw it in oil prices. To take the other obvious example, in the 3+ years of the Ukraine conflict, energy prices have gone up considerably as a result of that conflict. So we have to recognise that. That's why diplomacy matters on the global stage, to try and de-escalate and resolve situations, which is what I've spent a lot of time doing. It's also why we need to insulate ourselves here as best we can. Amongst the reasons I want clean power and to get to renewables as quickly as possible by 2030 is not just because it's right for jobs, technology, and cheaper in the long run. It's also because it's energy secure. It takes us off a volatile international market and gives us better control over our energy. There are measures that we can... The trade deals, a 10-year industrial strategy, they are all intended to be good in their own right, but help us cushion and insulate against global conflict. I think we are living in a period of global conflict, the like of which we haven't seen in a very long time. The world is more unstable and we have to take measures. The other thing I know this is a long answer now, but I have been saying defence and security, we're in a new era, things have to change on trade and the economy as well. Whatever we think of tariffs, they are undoubtedly an attempt to change the way the world economy is run. Right. And we have to recognise that. I don't think we're going to be going back in a few weeks or months to how it was before this administration came in. We're in for a different future, and we need to think through what that means. Trade deals, lowering trade barriers, the trade strategy I've just set out is a reflection of that, as is turbocharging our support for business here. We have to adapt to a changed world. And if we can do that at speed and get ahead of others, it's a huge opportunity.
Yeah, you talk about that trade strategy with the aim, and I quote, to make the UK the most connected nation in the world while protecting vital industries from global threats and backing businesses to thrive. How are you going to do that?
Well, first thing is to get the trade deals that we've got. And to get 3 in a row like that was really important. The smaller deals, I think, are really important because we can do them in an agile way within particular sectors. You know, there's the big comprehensive free trade agreements. They're good, but they take a long time to negotiate. Small sector-specific deals are the way forward. I think we should also talk to like-minded countries because they recognise that the world is changing. So I've been talking to the leaders in Japan, in Singapore, in Australia, New Zealand, Canada, about how we, the UK, can trade in an easier, better way with them, whether we as a group of countries can trade with other countries in an easier and better way. So I do think it's a difficult environment, but there are significant opportunities if we're agile about it and if we understand the world we're living in and get ahead of the curve.
Yeah, you need to start delivering sooner rather than later. The EU reset relationship with the UK, for instance, when are you going to deliver on that? Red tape is still a problem for many people in this room, and barriers need to be brought down sooner rather than later.
Yeah, so we're going at that at pace. We had the first EU-UK summit just a few weeks ago. That is going to be a yearly event, and so we want to move on in iterations. Between the reason we did it yearly is to make sure that we have milestones to gauge how more quickly we can go. I'm actually really pleased that we got 10 strands to that agreement. We started the negotiations in October of last year. That's when I sat down with the President of the Commission, Ursula. And then by 6-7 months later, we'd got a pretty wide agreement with the EU with 10 strands to it. There's the SPS agreement, hugely important for food, for supermarkets, retail, etc. But there's also the defence and security aspect, which unlocks the gate for us to the safe funding in the EU. And in this era where lots of countries are going to be spending more on defence, there is a live discussion going on about where those contracts are going to be to put ourselves in the position where we can take advantage of that. But also within the EU deal, the work we did on energy, on carbon emissions, etc. So we need to move at pace on that, and the quicker the better. And that's already progressing.
The room would agree that you need to really get cracking on that. You admit you've asked a lot of business. since you've become Prime Minister. Do you fully get the concerns that there are, deep concerns, when it comes to the Employment Rights Bill?
On the Employment Rights Bill, yes, I get the concerns. One good thing about businesses, they don't hold back when they talk to me about concerns. And quite right too, because those conversations really matter. It meant a lot. I've already said this to Siobhan this morning. It meant a lot to me that Siobhan put out a response to our industrial strategy, which not just said it was good, but said it reflected what you had fed into us. That is because I believe that government isn't as good at doing business as business is as good at doing business. And therefore feeding back what business said to us. So yes, people have raised concerns with me about the Employment Rights Bill, but equally, many people have recognised that a secure, protected workforce is good for business, drives up productivity, and most of what's in the Employment Rights Bill is done by good businesses in any event. It is good practice in many businesses. We'll continue to work with you as we implement it, of course, as I think you'll see in the work we've done in government. But in the end, I firmly believe that a well-respected, well-protected workforce is an essential ingredient for economic growth and drives up productivity, and that's the place that we want to get to.
Okay, running out of time, I want to get a couple of questions from the floor, and I know we've got a couple of people here in the front who want to ask a question. Just give us your name and where you're from, please. Thank you.
Thanks, Clive. Good morning. I'm John McCabe from
good to see you again, John.
North East Chamber of Commerce. Great to see you again, Prime Minister. You talked in your speech about devolution, and Chambers of Commerce across the North came together recently to welcome the Great North Initiative that our respective Metro mayors came together to launch. I just wonder if we could have your thoughts on how together we can ensure that that's not just another slogan, it's a meaningful strategy which will deliver and drive economic growth across the North, with Chambers playing an absolutely pivotal role linking between national government, regional leadership and the business community. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that. And I think devolution is critical to growth for a number of reasons. First, economic growth can't just be a line on a graph measured in some parts of the country but not others. It's got to be everywhere, and it's got to be felt by people everywhere, and therefore devolution is an essential part of that to meet the challenge that it's got to be growth in every part. I also believe as a fundamental principle that those with skin in the game make the best decisions about their own communities. Because they, the difference between somebody in Whitehall taking a decision about the North East and someone in the North East taking a decision about the North East is massive. Because if you live, if you work, if you've got a business in the North East, you absolutely care as to whether each and every part of the decision is the right decision. I think mayors give us an opportunity. We were a bit wary of mayors as Labour to start with, but actually on reflection, I think they've worked really well. We want to build them up because they give the political representation on a scale that works for business, and that's why, to give an example, on things like infrastructure and skills, I want that to be led from development. So when we're thinking, what's the infrastructure, what's the transport, the first thing we do is talk to businesses and mayors in the region to say, what would be, given the amount of money we've got, what's the best transport? Equally on skills, because I think if local businesses, local politicians and local colleges get round the table to say, what are the skills that are needed by the businesses in the North East, not generally across the country, but in the North East, they're likely to come up with the right courses in the right colleges to feed into the businesses that are there. So this isn't just a political slogan for me, it's a way of doing business. And I genuinely believe it'll produce much better results than teams of people in Whitehall trying to make decisions. We've tried that model, it doesn't really work for the obvious reason that somebody sitting in Whitehall will never make as good a decision as you will about what's needed in the North East or anywhere in the country.
All right, thank you for that. And one more question briefly. The front here, I think. Oh, here we are.
Right, thank you. Good morning, Prime Minister, and thank you very much. Charlotte Horrobin, I'm the Chief Executive of the Cambridgeshire Chambers of Commerce, and Cambridge is, of course, a jewel in our crown. Yep. It's an absolute global hub of innovation, but we do face some challenges around investment into our infrastructure. we do have planning delays and we desperately do need housing. So how can government help to make sure that we unlock and unleash the technology and the innovation opportunity, not just in Cambridgeshire, but for the whole country?
Thank you very much. I'll try and give a short answer to two or three aspects of that question, which are really important. On infrastructure and housing and building, we have to move on planning. And that's why the Planning and Infrastructure Bill is so important. Because, you almost don't need me to tell this, but the time it takes from the idea of a project, the concept, through to the build and the finish of a project is far too long. Housing projects that are sort of 10 years, 15 years. I went to one during the election campaign just outside York, and from the first planning application to the house I saw with a front door that someone could live in was 25 years. Far too long. And so planning is intended to, the Planning and Infrastructure Bill is to shorten all that and make sure that whether it's houses, infrastructure, sorting out the grid for power has to be speeded up, has to be much more efficient. I do think, just to take the second part of your question, technology and AI are hugely important in this as well. And on AI, I think there are two stances. You can either be forward-leaning, seeing it as a huge opportunity that's going to transform our businesses, large and small, or you can lean out and see it as a bit of a risk, better be cautious, put a lot of regulation around it. I'm a leaner in. I think it's going to be transformative. And we put out our AI action plan at the beginning of the year, had a very successful London Tech Week a few weeks ago. And I think for all businesses, we need to support you in making maximum use of AI. And I think that AI makes us more human, which sounds counterintuitive, but using AI to do all the bits that take a lot of time, don't involve a lot of human intellect, frees up the time for the human decision-making. I mean, one of the examples I can give, we just co-created an AI tool in government, actually, in planning, which allows us to suck up all of the material into one place at great speed and organise it, which used to take human beings a very, very long time to do. That allows the planning decision to be taken by a human being at speed because they're not wasting their time or waiting for that exercise to be done. It's a small example. There are plenty of others. Other aspects of government, social workers are now using AI to do a lot of the administration so that they can use their professional skills where they're needed. So many, many examples on technology. We need to push ahead, planning and infrastructure push ahead. But in a sense, there's a mindset here, which is let's just knock the barriers out the way that are stood in the way of growth, whether it's regulation, planning, infrastructure, slowness, the grid not being quick enough, AI and tech not being accessible enough. They're the sort of barriers that need to be knocked out the way. That's the partnership between government and business. And I think I said this 2 years ago, Siobhan, which is a true partnership is not two people or two bodies trying to do the same thing. It's two people or bodies realising they bring different things to the table. Government shouldn't try to run businesses. We've done that in the past. It doesn't work particularly well. So business should run business. Government should partner business by creating the conditions which makes it easier for businesses to run their businesses.
Prime Minister, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, Sir Keir Starmer.
Thank you. Thank you, Clive. Good to see you.
No, we were on journalism school together. That's where we started, so it's brilliant. Oh, God, yeah, absolutely. I'm still in touch with you too. Thank you. Right, ladies and gentlemen, we continue. I hope the Prime Minister answered some of your questions. I hope you got a little bit of an insight into what the government says it's trying to do to help everyone in this room. Now, can I ask Siobhan to come back to the stage, please?
Good morning again, everybody. So I think you'll all agree that this global conference is already turning into one of our most memorable in many years. Firstly, of course, I want to say a huge thank you to the Prime Minister for taking time to speak to us today and giving us an insight into the government's new trade strategy. I'd also like to extend our thanks to the Secretary of State for Business and Trade, Jonathan Reynolds,